Welcome back to See You on the Other Side. And this is for all of our listeners and creepers is now, I think we should totally call them that. I'm Leah and I'm here with
Christine.
And we have a very special guest for you guys today, Erica.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
I feel so weird. Every time we do that, I feel like we're in like an AA meeting, like, hi, Erica. But we've briefly mentioned her in a episode that came out a few weeks ago about, or was it just last week?
Literally last week, where I looked like a fucking freak the whole time.
Because you're like, what the fuck?
What is happening?
Yeah. So, Erica, tell us a little bit about what you do here in Louisville and Indiana.
Yeah, I own a company called Guided Place. And for me, I like to describe it as just a little spiritual studio. I'm an Aura-Soma practitioner. I read human design. I communicate with spirit guides and beyond. But right now my focus is still with guides at the moment. I'm a Reiki master. So I also do color light therapy, which is part of an Aura-Soma, I guess like wing or pillar.
Which I want to get into.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to say it. I don't really know what the fuck any of that is.
Yes. I mean, what's really interesting is like Aura-Soma on a whole is really new to the United States. There's only 43 practitioners here in the US. Mm-hmm. It's actually an English modality that was created by Vicky Wall. So it's really big in European countries. And so it's making its way here via more like California and Sedona.
We're all like
Arizona, just
good old Kentucky.
Sedona.
You know, there's practitioners in New York as well, but it's very much a coastal thing right now. And I hope to be part of that change.
I love it.
Midwest, so
I love
yeah.
it. So you're bringing it here.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So what is it?
Yes. So Aura-Soma it's a system of color, plant, and crystal energetics. And there's many different ways to encounter these energetics, but the primary ways, you would come to a practitioner who's certified, and you would stand in front of this wall of 121 equilibrium bottles. And these bottles, and I have them here for the viewers who are watching, but they're these dual color bottles. They're glass bottles, and the top and the bottom fraction can have different colors. Sometimes they have the same colors, but each color is an energetic that means something. And when you come for a session, you know, we go into a meditative state. We access our highest self. It is a soul-led therapy, so we always want to make sure that you're in your highest, best form as you're encountering this modality. And then you select 4 bottles. You just trust your intuition on what you're selecting. And each bottle, just like, you know, the tarot has like a meaning for each card. Think about it the same way. Each bottle has its own meaning or its own wisdom. And so we would discuss, you know, what is that wisdom and how is it unfolding in your life right now?
Wow.
And it's really the language of color is the language of the unconscious. And we're asking, you know, what does the soul want to bring to this level of consciousness so that you can either, you know, clear, release, heal, or lean into, right? So there are 4 key components to an Aura-Soma reading. You would look at a soul aspect. We would look at some resistance or challenges. We would look at our gifts. We would look at the energy in here and now, and also what England loves to call the present future. So it's kind of like where's the energy? What is it coming towards us? And what can we do with that? And so that's a primary way to work with Aura-Soma. And the next way would be through that color light therapy treatment. And so that's done on laying down on a Reiki bed. If you've ever received Reiki, the hands hovering or hands touching healing.
Yep.
It's very relaxing, gentleness. If you think about these energetics that are in the equilibrium bottles put in tiny glass vials. And those vials are put into a light pen. And those are put in different acupressure points along the body in response to your selection. So the bottles become these sort of spirit keys for where we want to work in the subtle anatomy. And it's really putting light on the pathway of our system of subtle anatomy. So if you think about, I don't know, I have never done psychedelics, but as far as like shrooms go, I often think that mushrooms, they're sort of decomposing what needs to be
100%
broken down.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so I like to think about light therapy as, burning what needs to be broken down. So that's why when we do have clients who have memories, like Leah did, or things that were coming up, it's really showing us what we need to decompose in the system so that we can move towards ourselves, have more of ourselves.
I was trying to explain to Christine what you were doing. And my first meeting with you was at a thing called Saturdays with Spirit.
Yeah.
And I did.
I'm going to.
She's coming with me. I've got a whole crew coming next. What is
Got
that?
my
A couple
posse.
weeks? Yeah. And I had a mini session with you, the Aura-Soma, and the beautiful colors. Like, you didn't have 121 bottles, but it was a smaller session, so I can't remember how many you had. But you said choose one. What's really crazy is that same day I had already seen a medium. I had already had Reiki done. And then I saw you, and you choose a bottle intuitively, right? Like, you don't, like, if I was choosing my favorite color, it would have been a pink on pink on pink on pink. But the bottle I chose was just, I was like, I don't know why, but that one looks like what I need, which is kind of how you choose, right?
It was just a gut.
It was just an intuition, like a soul-led choice. And when you told me what that bottle was, I about died, because every session that I had that day was telling me the same thing,
Which was
to trust myself, to trust my intuition, to trust my gut. And I don't know if you remember that, because you probably saw a lot of people that day, but every session that I had before you was kind of saying the same thing. Like, you know what you're doing, and you need to trust your instincts, and you need to trust yourself. You're not going to lead you astray.
Yeah.
And it was everything I needed to hear that day. And after that session, I remember looking at her and being like, so we have a podcast and I kind of want you to come on.
because you're kind of fucking amazing.
Yeah. And then I went to go book another session with you, a full session. And I saw on your website that you do, I think I'm messing this up with the way that I say it. Is it Kundalini or Kundalini?
People say it different. So yeah, either one.
Okay.
I say Kundalini, but
Kundalini. That sounds more like I know what I'm talking about. If I'm like, it's Kundalini.
It's not Kundalini.
Right.
Kundalini.
So I see that, and I've been kind of doing my own, like, everything that I'm diving into, this keeps
You're
popping
going down
up.
a rabbit hole.
I hadn't even gone down that rabbit hole yet. I didn't even know what it was. I was just like, I keep seeing this pop up. I need to do it. And I went to book an Aura-Soma session and ended up booking that session. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to try to give this a very simple explanation of what I understand of what Kundalini is. And this is where I want you to come in and be like, actually, it's this. But I was explaining it to you this morning. We all have this, we talk about divine feminine energy and masculine energy. And as women, and especially as mothers, we are used to giving, not receiving. We don't receive very well. We have a very hard time accepting help, and we have a very hard time receiving when we need to. And that's the feminine side of us. Feminine energy is about receiving. I wear my crystals on my left hand because that's the energy I want to have. And the right side is your masculine energy, your giving energy. Are you following?
Yeah, I'm following. Yeah.
Okay. So after I had my session with you, I went down my rabbit hole. I was like, I think this is about balancing that, because I have such a hard time receiving love, receiving help, receiving anything. So whenever you are balancing those two modalities or those two energies, you receive and you give. And that's kind of what I am. Is that a very
basic
explanation?
I love the way you're explaining it. And I think it is different for different people. It's also, Kundalini is represented in many different cultures and different religions. You can think about, with Christianity, something more like, the fire of the Holy Spirit, right? And you can also understand it as the energy that lies dormant in our spine, our core. It's often represented with serpents, snakes. Think about it as coiled up 3.5 times around the base of the spine. And it's this dormant energy that some people view as goddess energy, that divine feminine energy. Some people view it as, fire serpent energy, which would be more like life force energy, right? So there's many different viewpoints, and I'm definitely not a Kundalini expert. But the way Aura-Soma teaches us is that this particular treatment is asking us to, inviting us into more of our own energy. So accessing that dormant energy to harmonize, to decondition, to receive, right? And I love the balancing that's often how it's depicted with the masculine and feminine, the two snakes coming up through the spine. And I don't know if you remember the feeling of the treatment, but we even go, color by color, whether we're on a yin or a yang color, we're going 3.5 circles around that base point of the spine. And then we are going up the spine and out of the head. And really, you see it often depicted as Kundalini as the phenomenon of awakening or enlightenment. Now, I'm not trying to do a Kundalini awakening in this session. Like, that would be irresponsible of someone to try and invoke for someone else, in my opinion. But what we are trying to do is say, let's get us in a state to allow yourself the permission to access this energy for harmonization in the subtle body and the physical body. And I think that where Aura-Soma really gets it right is the sort of a personalized approach in that manner. So your soul-led selections are then helping me understand, where are potential areas that we want to pay more focus to. And honestly, the energy of Kundalini is its own direction. Like, so I'm responding to your body's response the entire time. But I do like having this sort of information that the bottles, you know how you pick this single bottle?
Yeah.
And those are, whether I even talked about it or not, because some things people don't have to know because they'll get too much in their head about it, is the chakra we wanted to focus on the most. Which I do remember being your solar plexus.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I still have that bottle.
You get to keep the bottle?
Well, I bought it.
So that's, I guess I didn't mention the way to use Aura-Soma is like, so if you're not doing color therapy, you can use the actual equilibrium bottles as body oil. So think about people who, hold or wear crystals. It's like, now you just like rub the crystals on you. That's how I like to explain it.
Okay.
So you have, you have plant therapy, you have crystal energy, gemstone energy, and those energetics get put on you, whatever your ritual is, whether it's a 2-second, like adding it to my body, or you're actually bathing in it, however you want to approach it is yours. Again, you're your own greatest guide. And I think I love it as a tool. Yeah. And to me, so I use a bottle at home called the Peace Bottle because I'm a mom and I got a toddler. And, I want to separate the, sometimes the work self from the home self to disengage and transition into parent mode. And so I have this bottle, the Peace Bottle, that I use, and it's a very simple phrase or mantra I use, which is like, I breathe in peace and I breathe out peace. And I use that bottle. And then that cues my system, like, and now I am starting this part of the day. But you can rise and set with your Aura-Soma bottle, meaning like when you wake up in the morning, you use your energetics. For me, I use, right now I'm using bottle 95. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I don't know. It's like the second time I've used it. I don't know what's happening.
Kind of obsessed.
I was like, I don't know if I'll ever move
bottle
on.
95.
Bottle 95.
The shit. Where it's fucking at.
We need some of that.
But it's helping me sort of own, the message I have to share. It's helping me own the wisdom within and the understanding of my divinity,
Yeah.
which I think oftentimes we can get, you know, in the hustle and bustle of a life, you know, where, how we were talking earlier, where it's like to be spiritual or to be whatever we think that version or ideal is. It reminds me that I already am that.
Yeah.
You know? And so waking up in the morning and reminding myself that, and before going to bed at night, reminding myself that.
Yeah.
Full stop. You know?
I love your energy.
She has great energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, I don't know if we'll put that part in here, but just to bring up what we were talking about earlier, Christine and I were having a conversation about where she is in her journey. And, you know I'm the hippy dippy one. It started, it's a transformation that's happened over the past couple of years. And I think people are like, oh, I don't want to do mushrooms because I'll be like Leah. So
I don't think so.
No, not you. That's what Jason used to say. Like, I don't want to be that. Like, you're getting weird on me.
Well, but
that's me.
Right.
That's my journey.
And you're further along than I am by a couple years. But it's just who you are. And I think, we're very similar, but we're also very, very different. And so I was kind of talking with you about it too, but I've been having this struggle of like, what glass box am I fitting in? But then I'm not, like, cause I'm me.
Your box.
Yeah. I'm my own.
Your box.
And
I'm
no
my
one's
own
further along or not. It's just kind of where
true.
we are. And actually, you've maybe had life experiences that have had you cultivate a sense of spirituality, whether that's resilience or connectivity or just other aspects of self.
Yeah.
That are further along than someone else in their journey is, right?
Yeah.
So, I often think, and I had said it earlier, where it's like, okay, this ideal, okay, well, we're meditating for like an hour a day. We're only eating high vibe foods. We're doing ceremony after ceremony. But like, think about what happens in your everyday experience where you are cultivating a sense of self or peace or compassion. And those micro lessons of every day is like spiritual boot camp, so don't underestimate the power of a moment.
And I feel like since, I did psychedelics 6 months ago, and I feel like since then I am 6 months into figuring out who I am. It hasn't been 34 years of figuring out who I am. It's been 34 years of me trying to fit into glass boxes and fit in with different people in different groups or whatever, or what's expected of me. But it's now 6 months of who's Christine. And I guess I'm going to be sharing it while we record each episode and just everyday life too. But
I think that's beautiful.
One of the things I said after the Kundalini session,
whatever.
This is kind of what I was explaining to her. Like, this is my journey, and it's not anyone else's. And the things that I'm into are not necessarily what other people are going to be into. This is for me. But I said to you after this experience, I was like, I feel like every time I do something like this, I feel closer to home. And then you said, like, that's actually on my website. And I was like, I didn't even read that part.
Yeah, come home to yourself. That's my whole thing.
So this stuff that I'm into, this hippie, witchy, natural, whatever you want to call it, like, that's everything that I'm doing. It feels right to me, and it may not feel right to you.
But I am doing some things that are different than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're your own box.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And like, I love the power of, frequency. So think about like when I have something on my website, I'm very intentional about those words and what I'm calling in for that particular client, right?
Yeah.
So there are going to be treatments or experiences that feel more accessible and other ones that might feel like it's for a specific part of your journey, right? And that's purposeful. And I think any good practitioner isn't trying to say, hey, I can meet everyone everywhere they are at all times.
Oh, gosh.
You know? And it's interesting because a lot of people come to me through human design first. Like, it's like the human design is the gateway. And
so you do human design too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I was loving your amateur reads. I'm not calling you an amateur.
So, it was
amateur.
totally amateur. Because I was like, I want to do a reading, like a full reading. I only know what the app is telling me, and I don't even know what a full reading would look like. But that is like, you might be seeing a lot of me.
I love it.
Me too.
It.
So when you do, I guess we're on this part now. So you do human design reading.
Mm-hmm.
It goes more in depth, though, than like you're a manifestor, you're a 3/5. Like, how does that look?
Which we are both projectors, and you and I are projectors, but all three of us are 3/5s.
Yeah, and we're all three non-sacral beings, which...
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, I was like, and that's why I love the sort of intro, the umbrella of existence where you start to look at the lens and then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think they say to study a full chart would take like 7 years to actually,
holy shit,
to actually know how to read the depth of a chart. It is honestly, it's a synthesis of 5 different languages. So there's, so much is there. We've got the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. We have the I Ching. We have the Kabbalah tree of life. We have astrology. We have quantum physics, all wrapped into this one lens. So the levels that I read is I do love the introduction, right? A lot of the aha moments that you were seeing yourself and you're like, it felt affirming. Or it gave you more permission to be who you are, right? I love those moments for people, again, coming home to themselves, right? And then the next layer that I love to read is the 9 centers. And the 9 centers, if I'm assuming you got to see your body graph based on the thing.
Yeah, I did, and that's kind of where I'm like...
different shapes. There's like 9 different shapes. So we look at those shapes individually and talk about what it means having the definition, not having the definition, or where your gates are activated and such and how they're connected. But to me, that next level were my deepest permission slips and my deepest sort of unlearning of the framework I had put myself in, a feeling like not good enough or not palatable. I actually did a post not too long ago about like the 8 things that I feel like I had learned since going into human design, and sitting down to like just do that exercise. Like I was just in tears because I was like, it's amazing that just this framework of support helped me see myself more clearly. And I originally got into it because I wanted to meet my kids, my kids who didn't have language yet, and just have a better understanding of like, who are these beings? Like I could, project my ideals on them or guess who they are, but like, why not just play with this system of support that could help them? And I always think it's important to think, we are always more than our designs. We are more than our chart. In fact, I think there's a big misunderstanding that people are like, this is my body graph, this is who I am. And it's like, actually, you have the entire body graph in your chart because the transits still activate your chart every 6 days into a new energy. Or when we're sitting together and exchanging our energy, what's now activated in your body is different.
That's, I downloaded another app where you could add people to it. And it's interesting because my husband and I have very different body graphs, but us together, the body graph was whole.
Oh, cool.
Is that kind of what you mean? Like something about you might ignite something in me, and make it seem more open. I
think about like there's this thing called hanging gate. So it's like there's channels that would be connection between those 9 centers that would be a full connect. The hanging gates are if only just half of that is activated, and oftentimes, depending on our splits and a whole lot of other fun stuff, we will want to attract that other half.
Oh.
Or for me, I'm a triple split, and I connect my mind by the public aura. Like I'm not sitting and engaging or needing to be in a deep relationship with someone. I need to sort of like just rub with other auras in public. So the pandemic was kind of challenging for me because that sense of like cabin fever was very real. And my aha moments are not in the shower. They're in the aisles of Target, you know, like I feel
don't know what I am.
Up. Which, yeah, I mean, we should totally look at that. It'll be fun. But these things, these little insights or these nuggets are just like the way to help my kids with decision making, right? Like, how can I help support them? Because as a mom, for me, like, confidence is a really important thing. I don't know why I've like really attached myself to like, I feel like you can do anything if you have confidence, and you can be a good person and stand up for people if you have confidence. And like all this stuff stems from confidence.
Yeah, it really does.
And so like with kids, you think about like, okay, well, how can we build confidence? Like, well, we build their ability to feel like they can trust their own bodies, trust their voices, trust their decision-making skills. And so that's kind of why I ended up studying it.
Well, it's interesting. I was just having a conversation with, I feel like every thought I have starts with, I was just having a conversation with someone about this, about how the mind-body connection isn't really there. And I feel like my mind-body connection has gotten a lot stronger in the past few years. And because I wasn't listening to my body, I didn't know how to listen to it. But kind of what you're saying, like as a child, when you're feeling upset and someone tells you you're overreacting or you're being too sensitive, that distrust starts kicking in. Like, oh, maybe I am. So you forget how to trust your body, because your mind and your body are telling you two different things, and then somebody else is coming in telling you something completely different. So
and then you feel shame.
Yeah.
Yes. And shame is a real quick way to lose that confidence.
It really is.
Yeah, sure
but
is.
I love like, so that example right there, we see this dynamic a lot with parents and kids where someone will have a defined emotional solar plexus and a child won't have that defined. And if it's open, think of it, and we're just doing really simple terms for this, the receiving. You're taking in energy when one of those centers is open, and when it's defined, think about it as an output. So if we have that parent-child dynamic, which already has like a power struggle and authority struggle anyway, and we have this child experiencing parents who have large emotions or are allowed to have large emotions, and a child who's receiving that, amplifying it in their system, they start to learn, like, actually, it's easier if I don't speak my truth. Actually, it's easier if I walk on eggshells, because I don't want to sense what I sense when I disrupt their emotional balance or their emotional experience, right? So we see people-pleasing behaviors often, or I have to be aware. The way I'm
relating to this right now.
Yeah, and it goes the other way, too. Like, if we have, you know, a defined emotional center child and an open adult, where the child's simply expressing normal level emotions and the adult is sensing it so much larger because you take in and you amplify often, then we're taught that we're too much. We're too big. Your emotions need to be done in another room, right? And we start to build shame about expressing those things or being too big.
Yeah.
And I have children who have that dynamic. That one is the same as me, as one is opposite of me. And my husband and I are also opposite. So that awareness alone in my household of knowing, okay, whose emotions is this really right now? And do we all need to be amplified? Like, let's actually just take a step back.
Everybody take a break.
Yeah. But that dynamic can really, you know, I really see it in households.
I really want to see what my kids are, and I can't believe I haven't done it yet. But
I'm surprised you haven't.
I can't find their original birth certificates or their hospital birth. I have the originals, but I can't find.
Call the county locally.
You can?
Yeah, you can just call the county.
Because I'm like, I know their birthdays. I just don't know what time they were born. I got a lot of numbers to remember.
I know.
My son was born in the Marshall Islands, so I don't know who I could call.
Okay, so we're going to do a human design reading. For sure, because I think...
Yeah, no, on Saturdays with Spirit, I'm coming to see you.
I'm doing an intro at that one.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing that.
We won't go into the 9 center stuff, but it'll give you a really good or start to dive in a little bit deeper than what you had found on the app.
Yeah, because that's definitely what I'm feeling. Like the app is great, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah, there's so much value when there's like back and forth, you know, to help like understand, because people understand things differently.
So I want to know, like, let's dive deeper about you. How did you even get into this?
Yeah.
I want to know that story.
Yeah, it's a journey. So it's interesting. My mom, I grew up with a dad who was like Roman Catholic faith, Italian. You know, we're very much of the family. We go to church, you know, and my mom, who was more of a metaphysical background. So this dynamic had always kind of coexisted in our home. And it got to the point when my mom was studying at the School of Metaphysics, she's a Reiki master, that expression became stronger.
Yeah.
And I remember as a child really resonating with what my mom had to say often. Not that my dad didn't, but more of like just lumping it as Catholicism. Let's do that. And I remember, when do you get confirmation? Is it 7th or 8th grade?
Oh, gosh. Because I grew up Catholic. I think it's 7th grade.
I think it was 7th, because I ended up having to change schools, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So I ended up not getting confirmed because I was like, this isn't for me. And there's too many questions that no one seems to have an answer for. And, you know, it just started the deconstruction or the breakdown or the like looking, what did my mom have to say, started kind of early for me. And, you know, I grew up like, if you have an issue, you go get biofeedback. And like, if you know,
So were your parents together?
Eventually my parents did divorce, but they're still best friends. So it's really interesting. My parents are better as friends than they were married. I love that. Nice. So it's still like a unit, but you know,
that's cool because you don't see that often.
You know, they were able to really figure out the whole parenting thing. I think my mom is also like, I think a living angel, to be honest. Like the woman has the amount of, like forgiveness and compassion in spades, you know? And I think my dad has grown a lot. Like, I don't want to underestimate his growth either. And he's coming over to, you know, this side a little bit more. He's definitely had some like treatments and, you know, he's done some theta healing and like, he's definitely open. So that's really nice. He's also a projector. But so I have this, you know, in the background, right? This undercurrent of my mom's influence. And I had an experience in the 3rd grade where this also is sort of the thing that lives in the undercurrent of who I am. But I was, you know, a young person in despair. Like everything feels really intense and like you're never going to live through it.
Yeah.
And I remember being curled up at the foot of my bed. Oh my God, I might cry. Sorry.
No, cry. It's okay.
I remember being curled up at the foot of my bed and feeling like there was no way out. And I felt heat first. And I remember just like feeling like almost like an intense like space heater, like that feeling on my body. And I remember like, you know, because it's kind of curled down, like think butt up, you know, on the bed. And I look over and I see the most intense light. And it was, I don't know how to describe it because it's hard to put in words outside of like the most intense experience of unconditional love I have ever felt in my life. The only thing like remotely like a fraction is like when I've held my babies for the first time. And I've come to understand, or the way in which my mind processes it, as it was an angelic being and that I needed to get some shit straight. That like I was worthy and I was worth it and I was here for a reason. And from that day forward, I really found my ability to find joy in every journey, even when there was tough spots, you know? And I'm not saying like high vibe optimism, like, you know, everything's always okay, but just like that I could move through anything and still find happiness. And so I actually remember writing an essay about it, I think in the 5th grade, and it was like framed in my Catholic school at the time. I wish I could find that essay. I would love to have it now. But so that happened. So these are the 2 major things that are like living underneath me. I grew up wanting to be in theater, not on stage. I was very passionate about the backstage stuff. I really wanted to be a director, or I wanted to be a stage manager. And through this experience, I start to learn that I actually want to be a casting director. I love helping people get from point A to point B, and I do not stop. From the moment I graduate high school, I am like, I'm going to be this. And I'm working every like angle here. I am not traveling. I'm not doing any sort of fun things with friends. I'm literally like trying to have the experience. There's no degree in casting, so you have to just kind of work your way up.
Wow.
And I do that. And in the meantime, my husband's always sort of like poking me about like the side of me, you know, like whether he wants to talk about it or bring it up, or like, remember that thing that happened to you, or like, you know, all this stuff. Right. And one time I'm, you know, so focused on like the work, right. The work with casting and just like climbing. He was like, I think you need a hobby. Like you cannot like let your work be your hobby, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I think you would be really interested in this school. And it was at the time called Envision School for Psychics. And he was like, I found it. He was a Lyft driver at the time. And he was like, I think that you would really jive. They had a graduation. They invited me up. Like, so he was like, I'm just going to like go up there. And it was like this healing center. It was really cool. And like I have found in the rest of my life, Nick is often someone who is like my weird connective tissue to things and opportunities. But so I go and I start to study energy healing with them. And I love it. And it feels so natural and so normal. And so I kind of do it as like soul food on the side. Like, you know, like actors may come to my house and like, you know, I'm doing these energy treatments, you know, these experiences. And then one time I'm working with someone, and she was a friend of a friend. I didn't know her. She was still in the community. She was in the production side, like TV film side. And I suddenly sensed that there was a being with me, and I don't want to freak her out. I've never experienced this before in the way that I was experiencing it. And I'm like, okay, you got to play it cool. Don't freak her out. And I was like, do you have a male figure that has passed? And I like don't even know how to navigate the conversation, but I also know that I have this really weird thing with my tongue. Like, it's kind of like an inner pendulum, but if it starts to curl up, it means like I have to get these words off my mouth. And so I know when to share and when not to share, essentially because of that. So I start sharing, and turns out her father had passed, and we start talking about these circumstances, and it's validating, and we're all crying, and like the experience left me sort of like shaken. And I call my mentors. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
I have goosebumps.
Like, I don't know how this happened. I don't know. I mean, I felt the person, you know what I mean? And I'm really freaking out because I also like have a baby in the other room. And like, I was like, is this spirit here? I'm like, so freaked out. I don't know what to do because I just wasn't prepared for something like that. But I think I got to a certain state of openness that like there was. So that was another marker of like, there's something here that I'm not going to look at though. Like, I'm not going to focus on this. Long story. Now I'll start to get it shorter. Sorry.
Love it.
So that experience happens, and I continue to cultivate the like learnings and the teachings that I enjoy as I'm climbing the ranks of casting. And then something happens where I just start not feeling called to live in Chicago anymore. And I'm like, I don't know why this is happening. I'm feeling dissatisfied. I freaking love that job. I worked hard to get there. I love the people I work with. Like, why is this unsatisfying feeling happening to me? And Nick, ever so wise, is like, well, why don't you just like meet it with openness and curiosity? And
what an amazing husband.
I mean, he really is. Very, very lucky. And,
wow.
And, if something happens, then like maybe we consider it. And that something did happen. I ended up being in communication with an incredible startup company that was here in Louisville, Kentucky, called Level Up. And ended up coming on and working for them as their director of operations and then eventually their director of product. And so the shift was the most like natural, easy, one foot in front of the other shift from leaving what I loved in Chicago to like coming here, which seemed insane. Everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, you're at the height of your career and you're like just leaving. I'm like, I don't know.
So when was this?
2018.
Wow. So you really haven't been here too long.
No. And, I loved working with Level Up. It was incredible. I loved, again, this theme of like helping people get from point A to point B is always in my life and through each job, no matter what. And then, of course, during the pandemic, like we couldn't pivot quick enough and lost funding. But I had already started Guided Place as like my side thing because I was doing that side thing in Chicago and I was like, I kind of want to have like a way to express myself in this way. And, when I lost the job, Nick, again, was like...
This good old Nick.
I mean,
Who's this Nick guy?
He was like, well, you already have Guided Place. Why don't you, like, take a break since you've been working since you were 14 and, like, just chill for a second.
I love your husband.
I know.
He is amazing. And so I do, and then it works. Like, I don't know.
He has so much faith in you.
Oh, my God, he does. Yes, I love it. It's amazing. And he's like... I mean, he's not the person that's like happy wife, happy life kind of support. It's like he genuinely is like, you should explore this and like, don't put a time frame on it. Even if we have debt, like we're going to figure this out.
He sounds a lot like me, but me trying to get my husband to get on board with that is very hard because I'm like, just trust the process. It'll happen. It's going to be fine. And he's like, we have bills.
Well, I think Nick has witnessed how we've done things in our lives where he's like, this is fucking magic.
He trusts
like,
you.
Yeah.
Like he has
he's
full
like
faith
witnessed
in
magic, right? Like he's witnessed the everyday magic that exists. And so I think he's like, yeah, do that, babe. I mean, it doesn't mean that, we don't have financial conversations. I don't want to like completely paint this picture that, we're like this perfect. I mean, we're pretty close, but like, no, but we do have these like conversations of, like, what does this feel like? But he's always giving me my medicine back to me, which is painful and also amazing. He's like, he'll be the quickest person to be like, you need to go to Guided Place. Like if I get into like tizzy about like money or something, he'll just be like, have you gone to Guided Place lately? Oh my God.
You need to have some energy shifted.
Yeah, he's like, you need to go to Guided Place. And it is interesting because it does remind me often, like, I have to walk the walk, not just talk it. And so I'm in a beautiful free-falling state, knowing that the parachute is there.
It's like that picture on Instagram that's like this guy jumping off a cliff and this hand above him like flicking him off of the cliff, and the hand is the universe, and then the hand below is also the universe.
Yeah.
And I say that I love that your husband trusts and knows that the universe has got you. The few times I have asked my husband to trust that that's going to happen, it's happened.
Yeah.
And, he got a new job and he was like, dude, I don't know what's happening. Like, I've got like all these recruiters coming at me and it's coming all at me all at once. And I was like, I told you we'd be fine. So when that happened, it's like every little time something falls into place where he was freaking out, it builds this trust.
Yeah.
Not in me, well, maybe in me, but like not in that I know what I'm doing, but like, okay, she might be right. She might be onto something. The universe is always going to figure out a way to make it work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And I think that the moments of like trust that are built really helps us understand what faith is. And like I start to learn, what is it to have faith in me and co-creating with the universe? And there are definitely very human moments, still where I'll panic or I'll get nervous or I'll be frustrated like, oh, I'm sorry we couldn't get these things because I'm choosing this. And then the the awareness that he has to reframe, you know, is super helpful to me. So like that dynamic is very give and take in the sense of like who's lifting each other up often, you know. We're a very yin yang couple, I guess, in that way. But I have immense faith because of the fact that I can't ignore the moments of trust that have been answered. And to ignore it would be completely without integrity with who I am. So it's impossible now for me to know another way than forward.
It's like not knowing what the next step is, but just trusting that
Having
like
faith.
whatever step you're taking is leading you to the right thing.
Yeah. And it's not easy to be detached from the outcome. Like that's one of the hardest things I think in today's society to do. Well, two things. One, listen to our intuition because we're constantly rationalizing it away. And then also like, what is it to not have the like end goal already figured out? Like, especially with terms of like manifestation and things like that, where it's like sometimes there's the pressure to feel like you have to know where you're headed. And to me, I'm living a life with like, I know how I want to move through the world. And I don't know what that looks like at the end, but I know it when I'm living it. And it keeps me in such a present place that I feel expansive. I feel incredible. And I feel supported. And I feel connected to both the seen and the unseen.
We just talked about that in our last episode, and just like trusting and watching life unfold. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything. Like you don't just get to sit back,
silver platter it up,
and watch it happen. Like,
so I can't just stay at home and lay in bed and watch Netflix
and then wait on something to happen. Nope, that's not how it works.
I don't know,
but it's interesting because it just keeps coming up in conversation, because I think people look at me like I'm crazy when they're like, well, what's the next step? When I have opened up to a few clients about me not doing this. Like I have a year left on my lease, and after that I'm done. And they're like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know.
But isn't the unknown so fun?
I love it.
Yeah.
But it freaks a lot of people out.
It does. I mean, we're taught to sort of fear the unknown. Like, that's a big conditioning in our societies. And meeting that with such curiosity instead feels invigorating. Like, so I often talk about how fear and excitement have the same physiological response.
Yeah.
You know, the like nervous belly or butterflies, or the feeling that tightness in our throat because we're scared. Or the adrenaline rush, or the nervousness for like what is to come, right? Some people even have sweaty palms, like either or. And I had to really practice turning or transmuting fear into excitement when I was like leaving Chicago to come here, because even just, you know, everything was so different. I mean, like not politically, but also opportunities for Vivian and for my husband and his jobs, you know, all of that was different. Yeah. And it didn't always feel great. And so oftentimes as soon as I was feeling fear creep in, I would be like, I'm just so excited to see what's going to happen. I'm so excited to figure it out.
I love that shift. Just that little shift.
And that is cultivating spiritual work, right? Like that is, so when people say it's like hippy dippy or it's whatever, it's like, no, this is the real world exercise of trying to cultivate connectivity with myself and my soul, right? Yeah. Just through reframing.
I love you, I think.
We all did. We just became.
I think I'm falling in love with you.
I feel it over here projected.
So it's just interesting. It's just so, I talk a lot about, well, this is crazy because I didn't know I was a manifester until we figured out I was a manifester. But I have talked so much about how I really, truly believe, and I said this before I knew that in some weird way, I have manifested the life that I have. And that sounds crazy to some people, but I'm like, no, I think I did.
I don't think it sounds crazy at all.
Speaking it into existence, like even through my husband's sobriety and his shame spirals, because that's a big thing in sobriety, is these intense feelings of shame and guilt. And it's kind of why they continue to drink, because they don't like feeling that. But he would have these intense spirals and be like, you deserve better, and I can't do this, and I've done too much damage. And I would be like, no, it's fine. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. This is just a lesson. We're working through it. And this is a first time for us. Like, this is the first time we're learning this lesson together. And it's the first time we're learning this lesson sober. And even though this situation has looked like it's happened before in several different ways over the years, this is the first time we're looking at it for what it is. So just speaking that positivity and that almost like, it's going to be fine. It's going to work. It worked.
Yeah.
And I can't, it's not to discredit the hard work that he put in or the hard work that we put in together, but I really feel like some of the stuff that's happened is completely inexplainable, other than I spoke that into existence.
Yeah. And
does that sound crazy?
No.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of my life sounds
I know,
crazy.
I keep saying that.
I mean, I just told you that I like talk to dead people, and it's like, you know what I mean? I still have to learn to accept all of myself all the time. You think Vivian has play dates. You think I tell the moms what I do? No, still half
that's
the
a
times
hard
I don't.
one.
I'm like,
Maybe we should create a mom group.
Yeah, because I don't want them to ostracize her. I don't want them to, there's some culture here that would then be like, you're doing the devil's work. I'm like, Jesus did miracles, you guys. I still pray to God. Like, I have a deep relationship with God still, which I know it's different for spiritual people in different levels, but yeah.
See, and I feel like it's all in the same. Like, I do have someone who is a friend of mine, and she's very Christian, but she was like, oh, I can't do Reiki. That goes against everything I believe. But then there are so many other things that we connect on.
Wait, Jesus held people's hands and limbs and heads and chins, and they walked and they spoke and they, what are we talking about? Are we reading the same book?
That's kind of, there's this language
I'm really confused here.
barrier where the word terrifies them. And it's the same thing. Like, you're seeing beings or entities or angels or spirit guides. I'm like, to me, what's the difference? Like, a spirit guide and an angel.
But they live their life based on fear. A lot of it's on fear. Like, oh, I can't go into that because that's bad.
Because that God is what do they call it? God-fearing. I'm a God-fearing person.
Yeah.
Actually, God, like, that's why I didn't get confirmed. Like, I don't subscribe to a God that I fear.
Oh my God.
Well, and you have, like, I feel like there's, especially American Christianity, there's, like, again, this box of how it should be. And I don't think that it should be that. I think that it's okay to be open, and it's okay to explore, and it's okay to ask questions. But oftentimes within, that culture, you can't ask questions, and there is a lot of shame, and then they put fear into you. And so to kind of like go against that and be like, no, like, I do have this faith, but I want to explore it and what it means to me. That's okay.
Yeah.
Have you read the 4 Agreements?
I have.
Okay. You haven't yet, have you? Okay. It talks a lot about, in the beginning, what is the word? The domestication of humans. And it talks a lot about fear, and fear in religion, and fear in...
There's fear in everything, politics.
But it kind of goes like that God-fearing, like you're taught to fear what you don't know. So you are like, okay, all right, I won't touch it.
Yeah, I won't access that.
And think about how much that pertains to other things now. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be that person. I'm in this box with all these other people right here. If I go outside of that, and
then you don't know where to fit in,
get shamed or ridiculed or whatever.
So let me ask you this: you're 3-5, the experimenter and the liberator. Is that what you would call them?
I would refer to them as the experimenter and the mentor. It's different.
Oh.
It's now that we've seen like new age, which should happen, right? Like we have a system and then the system shifts and changes. And there's going to be certain language that really works and certain language that doesn't for whomever. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the system. Just like anything that's been sort of like moved through ancient times, right? Color therapy is not new. That's existed for millennia, right? But so for me, the experimenter I think that really works. A lot of people will call it the scientist, which I also think works because it's all about sort of bumping into shit. Getting messy, getting your hands dirty, right? Like, I love to think about it as like, if I told you, oh, hey, that fire's hot, you'd be like, I'm going to go touch it.
Yes.
I got to go find that out. I got to get near it, right? So if I were your parent and I was like, that boy's bad for you, or girl, whomever, they.
You want to go check it out.
You're like,
I love him.
I don't know. Yeah, just because you say something doesn't mean I know. And the only reason why we make strong mentors down the road is because of what we've experienced, because of what we risked, because of, whatever that brand of projector or manifestor you are in that 3-5, right? So to me, I always, people will be like, are you afraid to make mistakes? And I'm like, no, failure has always been my best lesson. I love to build a plane while I'm flying it. You know what I mean? I love to be the person who wants to
build
pivot.
a plane while I'm flying it.
Like, to me, I'm like, oh shit, we're going to change that. Like, that wasn't working, Like, don't take yourself so seriously, right? Because I feel like I have learned what are the things to struggle for, right? And I only learn that if I am willing to do things wrong or bump into shit. And then as the 5, people can be like, oh wait, she knows that because she's been there, she's had that experience. So I often think our brand of line 5 is often a direct correlation to what we have experienced in this lifetime, or the many lifetimes that we're now remembering.
I know I'm seeing so many connections because we made this connection to why are we the ones who were willing to be brave and do this medicine that most people are so afraid of. Why were we willing to do it? And I see it a little bit different now because I do think it wasn't just that. We've kind of done that with a lot of things in our life, like the way that you were questioning Catholicism. I said in another episode, I questioned a lot as a child. My mom, I remember her saying to me, you just have to have faith. And I'm like, but what is that? Faith in what?
Oh, I drove my mom crazy.
You have to cultivate it, right?
Yeah.
You don't know it when someone else says it. You got to know it for yourself.
There was no experience for me that led to me having faith in any type of way until recently. But you're exactly right. That 3-5, the experimenter, that just wanting to see things for themselves and try it out for themselves. And I think I might have a 10-year-old who's like that.
Oh yeah, you do.
Because we had a curling iron on for family photos at the beach several years ago. And he was like, how hot is that? And I said, it's 410 degrees. Don't touch it. And literally seconds later, he grabbed it and blistered on his hands. Our entire family photos, he's carrying an ice bottle, and you could see the photos, it's in his hand the whole time.
Oh my gosh, bless his heart. Oh God.
Yeah, it blistered almost immediately. But I was like, I really need to do their charts just to see, because what you were saying earlier about I think we need to parent our kids differently because our kids are different. Mm-hmm. And there's no one way to parent. And I have found without human design that one reacts to taking things away better than he reacts to giving, punishment wise. Mm-hmm. I have one child who, if I'm if you don't eat your dinner, you're going to go to bed early. And he'll say, I was tired anyway. That's Austin. I'm sure you can see that. So I have had to reframe it and say, I have had to do a reward system. If you eat your dinner, you can have this instead of taking things away, if that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense.
So I would love to figure that out for all of them, because I feel like, I mean, I know them. I could probably guess what they are, but I would love to know more.
Yeah. And sometimes like you can be a really conditioned version of what you are too. For me, like recognizing that I was a projector was actually kind of a great shock. Not in the sense of like, I really love intimate dynamic. I love to get past surface talk and I want to be right in the nitty gritty. Like all those things made a lot of sense. What didn't, was I was like a machine. I mean, I like wore a badge of honor for being as busy as I was and as efficient as I was. And nothing made me feel better than to be the person who could like not only have a full-time casting job, but also have a casting company on the side that was freelancing. You know what I mean? Like, I never saw my child for her first 3 years. And I thought that was awesome.
You're like, I'm doing it.
And that's sad. I'm showing
That
her what it
hustle
is
culture
to like,
and grind.
yeah. I'm showing her what it is to be a working woman, chase your dreams, do your, you know what I mean? And like, actually, no, I was just a really conditioned projector because we can like work circles around people. I didn't know how to turn off or when enough was actually enough. And I only had the value system of output. Right? Like what I produce is my value. And like that shift was monumentous.
Wow.
So how has that changed now? Because that's how I was with six packs and just being in the fitness industry. I always worked long hours, terrible hours, grind.
Yeah.
And I don't really,
No, honestly, the thing that had to help was the pandemic, because even when I, left the casting job, which is time intensive anyway, so everybody's giving so much time. But like when I went to the new job, my goal was like, oh, I'll work less, right? But even then, I like didn't know how to put work down because I wanted them to be proud and I wanted them to see the difference I was making, right? And so again, the value system. And it wasn't until the pandemic where I was like, I had a nursing baby and a child like at the same time and was working like 12 hours a day, just like really trying to pivot this company so it could be successful during a pandemic. And you can't work 12 hours, right? Like I had to slow down. And then I started to realize, like, as I gave myself, I had to make actual parameters or we were not going to survive the first 12 weeks of the pandemic, like with all of us in a house trying to like do it all. And I made really solid boundaries of like, okay, I'm not working during this hour because I'm going to play outside with the kids or I'm going to take them for a walk or do something because they have to get out of the house for them to be able to give me the 3 hours later, right? It was like piecemeal and everything. And it started to really break down this system. And the more it got broken down, the more I was like, oh shit, I'm like really efficient if I'm rested and I'm tired and can get the same amount of work done than I do when I overwork. Like it was wild. 2 major shifts I think happened during the pandemic. One about like my workforce energy is actually just like incredible. Like I feel like sometimes people be like, oh, this is going to take me 8 hours. And I would be like, that's going to take me 20 minutes. Like my level of efficiency is, I don't know how I have it, but I know now that when I actually rest and allow myself that I can be super efficient in a shorter amount of time. The other thing that happened was like my perception of money changed.
Okay. How so?
Okay. So I had a really nice salary. And then the rug got pulled out from underneath me. And then it's like, okay, now you don't. You have no monies coming in.
No monies.
No monies. And yes, I was doing guided plays, but like at that time I wasn't like trying to pay my bills with it. You know what I mean? I was trying to like have a shopping fun or a trip with it. And somehow, despite not having a nice salary, I was like, okay, I know I have to be a mindful purchaser. And I don't know how, but I have still had all the things that I want despite not having the consistent salary. And it blows my mind all the time because the only thing that could have happened is a reframe about how I view the things that I want, which added mindfulness, I guess. I used to shop because like when you have a salary or you have money coming in, it doesn't have to be a salary, you just get. Like, I would be in a bad mood and I would, like, go shopping because that would be, like, my therapy. You know, I would just be like, I'm going to feel better after I spend money, which is very true.
I mean, you kind of do.
It's a drug. It's a drug.
Yeah, but I started to, well, then I found out, like, actually what I'm doing is I'm wanting my triple split to be met. So really I just want to be in Target aisles, not to actually shop, but because I needed my system to feel whole.
To be around
and
people.
And so I was equating things incorrectly. But so that also happened. So maybe that also helped me release. But I don't know how it is that, like, that big of a shift could happen because I'm not within a state of want anymore. And I still get to get the jeans that I want, or I still get to go get my kids new shoes or things like that. Like, it's still surprising me to this day how that has shifted. And I wish I had the formula. Like, I wish I understood. And maybe I will. Like, it'll dawn on me, or I'll go walk the Kroger aisle and, like, I'll have my aha moment.
Ding, ding, ding.
But, like, because it made such a shift for me. Because I was definitely scared, you know? And, like, what's to come of us. But it hasn't changed much.
That's incredible. That's like what we were talking about earlier, like changing your life. Or everybody says if you don't like your life, change it. But it's not that simple. You can just literally change your perspective. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about earlier about transmuting fear into excitement. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that comes easy for a lot of people to first recognize what they're feeling, but to also reframe it, to change what it means for them. That's a practice.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And the power of words and the power of intention and the power of mindfulness is incredible. So instead of waking up and saying something like, I don't want to work today, I have to go into work, just say, you know, it's as simple as waking up and saying, I get to go to work today. Mm-hmm. And I get to interact with people. And that sounds crazy. It sounds like such a simple concept, but I do think that there's a lot of power in that people aren't tapping into.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's just even like I got out of bed and took a shower. And, like, that's amazing.
Well, and like on days where I just don't do anything at all, I used to feel a lot of shame around it. Like, I did not do anything today.
Projector shame.
Yeah. Where now I'm like, no, I needed rest. My body was telling me that I was tired. So I rested. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So
it was hard, that shift.
Started learning, well, not learning. I literally just Googled the other day what flow state is. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about it, but I have a hard time staying focused. So while I'm like editing our podcast, I'm like, I've also got my phone. And if somebody texts me, I'm like, ooh. And then I get on Instagram and then I check something else and then I check something else. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be editing. So it takes me a very long time to do something that what you were saying, like it would take me 8 hours where you could go in and do it in 20 minutes. Is that because you're able to have this like flow state of like mindfulness and your energy is put into one thing and you don't step outside of that until you're done?
That's a really great question. Can I ask you a question back?
Yeah.
Do you want to experience the freedom and flexibility that you have when you're able to sort of what you call distractions, but might just be following your urges and the way your mind's going? Like, do you like that? Or are you actively like, no, I don't want to be like that?
That's a really hard question.
Yeah, because you might actually enjoy the freedom of that and using your brain different ways, you know, like that. But if you're actively trying to say like, oh, I do want to be more efficient because I want to spend more time doing XYZ, then you have a nice little projector who comes around who loves systems and operations, because that's one thing that we tend to see, both the macro and the micro. And I would say like, okay, well, we're going to set up a time block system for you. And, you know, there are these increments. For me, I like 45-minute increments, but some, you know, a manifestor might only like 20-minute increments. And like there are different ways of approaching that to satisfy the different needs.
See, so I'm in charge of finding people, and I'll email 50 people in a day. And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kick back. Because I'm like, that was my role. I'm done. But with you, I feel like I do have to guide you a little bit. And I think that's okay.
I was just about to say.
Because it's here, 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 and here.
My mind is so many places. But
I think that's okay.
Well, it's okay for now. Because I would like to get to a place where that's not a thing. But I have found that I enjoy the flexibility of doing what I want when I want. And I can't do that with my current job. Mm-hmm. The one that makes me money.
Yeah.
Not this one. Not the hobby.
Our support job for our careers.
Yes. The job I have to support my hobby. I don't get that flexibility. I'm on other people's time all the time. And I have realized in the past few years that doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. I don't like it.
You have to be on your time.
I need my own time, and I enjoy the mornings where I wake up and we're recording and we don't have to be up and out of the house at a certain time, and I can just take my time and get ready as I need to. So I think for me, I'm trying to shift my life in a direction where that is something that I can do, and I don't feel guilty about not doing so much in such a small amount of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Okay.
And I think like you'll start to cultivate even more of an awareness of like, how do I like my energy to work? What is flow state for me? Right. And for you, that might mean that you have the freedom to like look at the dings, you know what I mean? And you might change down the road and be like, actually what I need is I want really focused time so I can then get out of the house for a run, like whatever it is. But I think having the awareness of what you do and don't like really can help you carve out what it is. Because sometimes I think it's just shame from society or certain things that we're conditioning that we're putting on ourselves. Like, oh, I'm not efficient because I'm easily distracted. But actually, like maybe you really liked having that text conversation really quick. And then you found inspiration from that post that you saw. And then it was like, now I should highlight this part of the podcast because this is what the people want to hear.
That's where I think it's good that you come in, because I've never not had it done in time.
Yeah. I was like how do you run? Yeah. If you do well with deadlines, like I love a boss who says, just get it done. Like do it when you're going to do it. And like long as it's done.
Is that a projector thing? Because I'm like, I don't care if it's different than me, as long as it's
I don't
done.
know that it's necessarily.
I love your strengths because they're my weaknesses, and
it's good bossing.
Yeah, I have like my support job for my career.
I like that.
I'm like a closeted Pinterest expert. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I run her Pinterest account and some of her like her newsletters, and it's fun because it's like I don't have the pressure of doing it on her time, but she knows it's going to get done. Like I'm going to hit the milestones, and that might be in 5 hours that week, or I might do something, more artistic and with depth, and that might be 10 hours that week, but like the milestones will get hit. And I love that sort of freedom, right? So I don't know. I think it's just different. Flow state for different, I think people is definitely going to feel different. But for me, I love getting in the zone, but like I would get so much in the zone that I like would not eat lunch. I would not get up and pee. I would not like, and that wasn't healthy.
Do you think that you have too much on your plate?
It's not that. Like I can get it done. It's just I feel like I just keep getting distracted. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, I also think like as you start to how you approach this podcast and you say you're wanting to have it more elevated and refined, like, whether the type of editing that you're doing, or now you're adding video, right? It's like you're adding more to your plate. You're definitely adding more work. And you might not want to take away from sort of your free time, your free states. So that's where I would start utilizing some more of the traditional like system tools. And for projectors, like we naturally are people who probably excel in operations, in systems, in sort of managerial roles. The good managers are often going to be a projector. They often see strengths. And so those strengths, they're also the connective tissues. So like, oh, you might need this or consider this. But I think a really good projector, and particularly if you were a projector manager, they don't lead through prescribing. They lead through asking questions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you need? Like, are you just like going down on yourself because you're like, oh man, I can't, I'm so distracted. I have too many things in my, space, whatever. But it's like, really, that's just how you operate.
But it's also this balance of like what feels good to me and that feels good to me. And I would rather be drowning in this than head above water in this, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Okay.
Because think about the days when we record. Like, think about this right now. Like, I'm, like, getting emotional talking to Erica, and then I'm getting goosebumps, and then I'm laughing.
Like, it all feels really good.
Well, and then after we get done interviewing somebody, I'm like, yes. I'm so fucking pumped right now.
That was so awesome.
No, it is. Like, I just, like, played, like, a fucking basketball game and, like, shot the winning three. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
That's what I mean. Like, that feels good to me. Like, putting my energy and my time and my focus into that feels really good. But it's this hard balance of like,
You're putting a lot of hours into both. And that's what kind of stinks right now.
And remember how I mentioned that, like, we're all non-sacral beings? So the sacral center is like workforce energy, life force energy. It's the, we don't have it consistently. Like, that's the, at the end of the day, we can sense burnout quicker. We are sometimes using borrowed energy.
When you say we, do you mean us three?
Us three, because we're non-sacral beings.
So my understanding of that is someone who, my husband, does really well with routine and 9 to 5, and that like at 5 o'clock I shut down and no more work. I don't do well with that. Mm-hmm. I don't like the structure and the timing of other people. I want to do things on my own time.
Same.
Is that kind of...
Yeah, it's not necessarily the structure and the timing. It's more about the how we feel lit up, and that we have this sort of energy to do, the energy to accomplish. And some days that might look differently for you. And especially if you're balancing two different things. One that's not kind of sparking joy. Like, imagine that. Like, if we're using our energy up on a way that doesn't spark joy, like, it's going to feel real depleting. Whereas, like, when you're doing something like this where we're non-sacral but we're feeling really energized, it's because, we're sparking joy. Let's use that phrasing. So I think about the sacral in the sense of, like, I don't get mad at myself when I feel like I can't push through. And I used to always, judge myself for that. So some days, like when you're editing, you might feel, great ease. And some days you're like, oh my God, this is a struggle bus. What's up? And there's going to be an imbalance in that. So don't judge yourself for it.
I also think it depends on the clients that I see that week. Because some are more draining than others.
Some you need to, like,
I need to take breaks
from.
Crystal
under the
yes. I don't have enough. I do not have enough crystals in my workspace. I have them on my arms, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes in my bra.
Crystals, because the way that I relate to that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. I was like, what? That's why I was curious. Like, where are you sort of resonating with next? Like, okay, if she's doing this kind of like new body work, like, where are you curious?
I don't really know. Like, I'm, very curious, and I talk all the time about the psychedelic world, but I'm meeting all of these different people, these energy healers and Reiki, and I don't know. And so I guess right now in my journey, that's what I'm trying to figure out, and just experiment and just trying to experiment and enjoy the ride and enjoy learning from other people, and then kind of figuring out what sparks my interest, in the sense of everything I'm really, really curious about, but what's gonna resonate with me and
it's gonna spark joy.
Yeah. But all of it sparks joy.
Well, maybe it's like this place of still this inner exploration, right? It's like these things are outside of yourself right now.
Yeah.
And so really tapping into like the sense of who you are, what it feels like on a different daily basis. What is guided meditation when I'm, doing body scans for myself? Like maybe it's that you want everything to be coming from you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where you are.
Yeah. And I think, I grew up with feeling a lot of shame. If I spoke up, then I'd feel shame. Or if I thought something different, feeling shame, or just not really knowing who I am. And right now I'm just trying to enjoy it and explore that. Wherever that goes, it goes.
That's kind of my first year in my journey. I was doing a lot of things. And I said in our last episode, it felt like I was having a little bit of an identity crisis. Because I would move on to the next and move on to the next. And I found joy in all of it. Kind of what you were just saying. But it was like figuring out what parts of it I wanted to keep.
Yeah. It's like trying on different things. I mean, like, I do or don't.
Putting on an outfit.
You're like, I'm going to keep this, actually. I'm going to return that jacket.
Yeah. So, I went on this like bracelet making exploration and I still do that. And my husband's like, so was that a waste of money? And I was like, no, I
Never
still
for a manifester.
do that. Like I still love doing that. I just haven't had the time and the energy to put into it what I was when I first started.
Yeah, I studied herbalism. I mean, like I've studied lots of things. I have a breathwork, certification. Like there's many things that I have, collected over the years.
All those outfits.
Right, all those outfits. But like sometimes I want to wear this one right now.
And I think with kind of our personalities, there maybe was a lot of shame with that because it's like, oh, I'm here. Oh, I'm here. And even we've talked about how like us being so psychedelic, people would be like, oh, here they are on their new thing. They're doing this new venture. Now she's doing this. Okay. Like whatever. Even somebody referenced like, oh, she's talking about this. Like it's the new CrossFit.
Ooh.
But I think it's brave. I think it's incredibly fucking brave to be like, yeah, I'm going to try that. Yeah, I like that. Or, well, I'm going to take a break from that. And now I'm going to try this. And I'm going to try this. That's fucking brave.
And anyone who's like judging someone for trying to find more of themselves or healing, like, I don't know who that is, but I'm not interested in them.
Ugh.
Like, I'm interested in people who are going to be like, yeah, I'm so excited that you're doing that for yourself or exploring. Like, let me know how that goes.
Well, and so I never told you this. My cousin Priscilla, she texted me last week and she said, one of the things that I love the most about you and look up to is how you just do things. You just do things regardless of fear getting in the way. And she said, and I envy that. And no one's ever, because a lot of times we get judgment and no one's ever really worded it like that. I'm like, yeah, I think this is fucking cool.
Look at your line
doing.
3 showing through for you.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess I'm going to bring this back to your experience when you were in 3rd grade. That experience for you was a very spiritual one.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a spiritual experience until I did mushrooms. And I think there are many different ways for people to get there. It doesn't have to be psychedelics, even though that's something that we talk about. We do talk about a lot of other things on this podcast, and we introduce people to a lot of other ways of getting there. That wasn't the next big, that wasn't like for us, like that wasn't a experiment and now we're on to the next. That was a catalyst to finding ourselves. The same way your spiritual experience was a catalyst to figuring out who you were. So it all kind of falls under that same umbrella for me. Like experimenting with different things is just us trying to find ourselves.
Yeah. And it also still falls right back in line to that shame portion though, because it didn't take me long to realize that people looked at my mom weird when she talked about XYZ, or that when I had a certain experience it was cool and safe when it was this, but not when it's this. And so I constantly am still, where do I fit in and how do I carry shame still and allow myself to be all that I am?
Even you saying like, well, I don't want to talk about it too much around, my kids.
I didn't want to put it on Facebook. Like, that's so dumb. Like, I don't, nobody from like Chicago outside of my really close friends have any idea that I do this here.
What?
Yeah.
It really is that though. We get in our heads a lot.
Yeah. And my husband all the time is like, when are we going to put it on Facebook? And I'm like, I love him. I'm just not, I know. I was like, I'm just not ready for the judgment. And I'm going to keep this for me where I want it right now. And like, hopefully maybe one day, like I'll be, excited to share in that way.
When you're ready, add me as a friend on Facebook and I'm going to hype you the fuck up on that post.
We can do it on Instagram though, for sure though, right?
In the meantime, I'm on Instagram. And it is,
I haven't said, yeah.
So I had this like beta test of this like embodiment process for human design. And the person who betaed it for me, with me, was a Chicago actor. And we knew each other from there, also a projector. Someone that I felt safe doing it with. And then like, I forgot that like Instagram is connected to Facebook. And so like when we were like putting things out there, and then I started to see some Chicago people like follow. And I remember the panic that was setting in. And I was like, oh my gosh, Erica, like it is okay to be you. You are safe. Like just be you.
I love
and
that.
It is so exhausting to try and like put yourself in the closet after you're out of the closet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I haven't found the like bravery yet, but I think I will eventually. Like it's coming.
We haven't posted anything on Facebook either.
Yeah?
And
why is that? Like,
because Facebook is not always the vibe. Because I feel like with Instagram, it's a little bit different because you post what you post, but you have friends that are following you, but you have like-minded people who you follow and follow you back. They see you on the other side because they're curious or they've done psychedelics. Whereas Facebook, it's a bunch of, it's people who I went to high school with. It's people who I went to middle school with. And then I make a post about mushrooms. People are going to be like, okay, so remember Christine, we went to 4th grade with her? She's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
Which it's a different vibe.
Maybe we'll push each other.
Yeah. I want to plug this Saturday in.
Yes.
Because with what you were saying, like, I'm excited that you're going, by the way.
I know. Me
because
too.
I've been trying to get you to go for a while. But I've missed the past couple of months because I'm like, I'll take a break. It's fine. But this is a perfect chance for anyone to kind of dip their toes and experiment with a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So Jenny Shanks curates it. She's a spiritual medium. She's an evidential medium in the area. And she has a mastermind program. So many of us have either like encountered her through going through her programs or her classes. And she essentially has a little marketplace, a spiritual marketplace, right? So not only can you get these really cool, crystal jewelry or giftables that are handmade, wooden shelves. Like there's so many little things that are there. Sometimes it's candle makers. Sometimes it's Ayurveda face oils. Like it's really beautiful. And then there's also practitioners. So you can have these mini experiences. So usually they run somewhere between like 15 to 30 minutes long, depending on like the modality. And they're substantially cheaper than if you're going to like the site to just book right away. So I think it gives such a really amazing way to like taste something to see if it's for you. And so I alternate between human design and color light therapy. There's biofeedback. If you've never experienced that, it's really cool. There's sometimes acupuncture. There's breath work. Obviously, Jenny's there doing mediumship. Beth Berceau is amazing Reiki healer. She's actually a resident on the farm out there too. so there's so much to be had and experienced out there.
Aura reading.
Oh yeah, the aura portraits. So Ray's aura photography portraits. They're also at the new location that I'm going to be at. So I'm in New Albany, but I now opening a second location in Norton Commons called the Bodhi Tree. And so we're both going to be there, which will be fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
and
my
then like my
brother's name.
portrait up there, that was like an aura.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's Kelly Luckett. She's amazing. She's a intuitive artist, and she actually made that. I think she's launching soon. These really incredible like affirmation cards that she like hand painted and designed. They're gorgeous, but they're really cool.
So is the Saturday with Spirit where you had your astral?
No, that was after my taste of her, my miniature session with her. I was like, this was awesome. I want to do it again. So the full session, the Kundalini session that I had was after going to her website and seeing that she also offered that. So she does a lot of things.
Yeah.
But so this Saturday is Saturday, August 13th.
Mm-hmm. 9 a.m. to 1.
I would suggest getting there early.
Mm-hmm.
Like
It's
we're going to be there
first
at
come, first
8:30.
serve. So
you can sign up for who you want to see throughout the day. And yeah, that was also where I had my reading with Jenny, and she said there was something in Sedona for me. So I'll be going to Sedona in a few weeks.
I love Sedona. That's where I really came out to my husband.
Oh, about all the witchy stuff.
I was actually where I experienced Aura-Soma. Really? First time, yeah. So I can send you the woman I went to if you want to experience it out there. Now she'll do the readings. She doesn't do
the light therapy.
But actually, my mentor Shanta is out there too. She's amazing.
This is also something I really think, even hearing you explain it, like it's such a hard thing to explain to someone. And I think you should just experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're on this path and open to those things, because I do think since being more open, the things that I experience are on such a different level.
Yeah. And honestly, color therapy is so gentle and kind and nourishing, and it's not scary. It's not, it's a very gentle messenger. And even with color light therapy, where you can absolutely astral project during, it's still in a place where we're creating a setting that is safe and nourishing. You know, I don't want people to feel like they're launched into something they're not ready for.
I was not ready for that, but I was.
You were ready.
I was.
She's all like, I'm going to come get soul messages. Click Kundalini.
I was like, I don't even know what I booked, but I'm here.
Here I am.
I'm here. I'm ready. And I was
You
not.
had experienced light therapy already from that session. So it's like, you know, if someone I had never met before booked that on the first time, I would be surprised, because usually it's something you've at least encountered me before you would book a session like that, because it does have some sort of, you know, the vibrational frequency that I use for the language is more of an intense experience.
Oh, I'm coming back.
Well, and so what I was
So
going to
you can do a
ask.
protocol, yeah, like a 7-week one.
That's what I'm
So
going to
when
do.
I come see you, I don't even know what to do.
Well, that's why I think it's so good to read descriptions, because they're there for a reason. And and when you look at it and when you read it, what words pop out? What sort of do you feel like you gravitate towards, right? Again, like the greater guides within. A lot of people ask me, but if you want the like starter pack of Sartini-Combs, like it usually comes with human design. Or if they really know they want to experience energetics, they're safe because of the word Reiki. They've heard Reiki before, so they'll be like, I'll do that. So then Aura-Soma Reiki is a beautiful treatment, super relaxing. I'm a Reiki master, but then I incorporate not only the light therapy treatment in it, but also the aromatherapeutics of Aura-Soma into that session. And it's, you know, a really nice revitalizing session that hopefully puts you in theta state where you're doing some healing work.
Theta state. I just learned that recently because I started listening to that app where it like has affirmations that you speak at night.
I downloaded that and I got the mask.
I have an eye mask that I wear at night with like speakers built into it.
Nice.
And I downloaded this app where you speak your affirmations into it. So it's like listening to your voice, which is powerful in theta state. And so, yeah.
Now I'm going to start doing that.
I'm like 23 days in a row. I've done it.
Nice.
So I fall asleep listening to myself, hyping myself up.
Is it like, yes, bitch, you got this?
No.
I'm just kidding. I've recorded some of them, so I know what it is.
Yeah.
I think we need a reveal on one of the shows, like what your affirmations
What I'm listening.
are.
Well, that's the reason I got the eye mask
listening to
with the headphones, because I'm like, as much as my husband hears me talking, I'm like, I don't want you to hear my affirmations. These are personal.
I know.
No, but they're like, you can go down the list and choose the ones that you want to record for yourself. So it's not like you have to come up with them yourself. But, I think one of them that stood out to me last night was like, you have a lot to offer to the people in your life. Like something that simple.
Because of you, I downloaded it.
Speaking it out and believing it.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, we all doubt ourselves and we all have that internal shame. So I'm just trying to break out of that and believe that I have something to offer. And it's a really hard thing to believe when you didn't believe it for a very long time.
I think that's amazing. I'm into it.
Okay.
There's so many fun tools.
I know. We'll talk about that in another episode because I'm like, dude, I wish they were like giving us some money for that.
Oh, shit, we're an hour and 40 minutes in.
This always happens.
I know.
Always happens. So we're going to see you.
Yes.
Is it next Saturday?
Yeah, not this Saturday.
Well, by the time this comes out, though, it'll be the Saturday of.
Oh, yeah.
August 13th.
Saturday, August 13th, Fox Hollow Farm, Saturdays with Spirit. I think there's an Instagram page literally called Saturdays with Spirit.
Yeah, or you can go to SatursdaysWithSpirit.com.
Okay, and then your Instagram.
Yeah, I'm at Guided Place, or you can find me at guidedplace.com.
Okay. I'm so excited. You're going to be doing so many things.
I can't wait to report back.
I know. We're going to report back. So thank you so much for coming on today and explaining so much. And we will see you in a couple weeks. Oh, yeah. And we'll see you on the other side.
Sorry, I thought you were going.
Oh my God, I love it.